Long as I wake up in the morning, I'ma get a bag. Get a bag, yeah, I'ma get a bag. Long as I wake up in the morning, I'ma get a bag. Get a bag, yeah, I'ma get a bag.
Yeah. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Sports Bites. I am your host, Randall Horn. Tonight, my brother in the house.
Don.
You got it. Don, thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, sir. Good to be back.
Absolutely. First podcast of the new year, man, 2024.
Feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. Feels different. Feels a little different this year.
Yes, sir. A
So,
little bit.
absolutely. So, super excited to get this thing fired off. I know that new year, new us, trying to do things a little different and stuff. So, we're going to see how that goes. Start this thing off again. First podcast of 2024, man. We got 3 in at the end of last year to get this thing going, and I got high hopes for 2024. We've got our schedule set. We got everything going. So I'm super excited to keep Sports Bites rolling and keep snacking and keep bringing the heat on these things. Let's start it off. Still working towards the 50 sub giveaway. We're looking for 50 subscribers. As soon as we hit that 50 subscribes, that's it, man. We got the first giveaway coming. It's going to be a good one. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Robert or Brent that said on the one of the last 2 podcasts, like, man, try to get in on that 50. That's your best chances is to get in on that 50.
Never know.
And I promise you this, it'll be some nice swag that'll come with that giveaway. Like I said, everybody, hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're liking the content, if you're liking the guest, if you're liking the host, subscribe up, stay with us. Check us out every week, Wednesday nights. Let's get it started, bro. 2024. So I gotta be honest. So we did our snack review last episode. I know we skipped a week, and for the fans that are watching, I apologize. Christmas, holidays, stuff got crazy.
Big family.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of running, lot of hanging out with family, enjoying the family time, kind of getting ourselves together to get this year started on Sports Bites. So.
Yes,
for that, I apologize to the fans, but I just want to say we're ready and we're rolling. And I know we set the bar pretty high on the last episode with our snack. We had some of these, I don't know if you remember, me and Robert had those freeze-dried lemon heads, bro.
Yeah, the lemon heads.
Golly, man, they were crazy good, dude. They were so good. Addictive, highly addictive. So I figured to start 2024 off, there was no better way. Tried and true Andersons. They made some bomb lemon heads.
Andersons.
So we got the Andersons Crazy Candy Rainbow Bites. We got some freeze-dried Skittles tonight.
Okay.
These are quickly becoming one of my favorite snacks. I've had like 5 different brands of these. Haven't really messed with the Andersons yet, but I've had like 5 different brands. Some of them are good. Some of them weren't so good. I've gotten some local small businesses that I've ordered online from that were really good. I've had some businesses off of Amazon that quite honestly were terrible. They were worse than regular Skittles, even though I love regular Skittles. So, so we're going to crack these things open right here. Yeah, so let's check it out. Anderson's Crazy Candy.
Say I've never tried the freeze-dried.
Oh, man. If these are anything like the ones that I've been having, man, they're pretty good. So, this is going to be crazycandyfun.com. Anderson's Crazy Candy, freeze-dried Skittles. Let's crack into it and get this thing rolling the right way. Donnie, hook it up.
Take a few.
Yeah, buddy. Let's see what we got here.
First timer.
Let's see. Here we go. Oh.
Interesting.
Bro. I think that is more flavorful than a regular Skittle.
It's like a Skittle if it was like enhanced and like taking all the middle out.
Yeah.
It's like an air bubble. Skittle.
I like it. I like the that like light, airy Skittleness in the middle.
Yeah, not bad. Good flavor.
That's what I'm saying. Like you can taste the individual flavors of each one so much more.
For sure.
Golly.
It's good.
I think I just had like 4 different flavors and they were all slamming. Oh my god.
Dangerous.
I'm gonna say it again. Anderson's Crazy Candy, man. They're 2 for 2 so far. It looks like. We're gonna come back to that here in just a little bit, man. Sorry, I gotta crack the drink open. Sorry, everybody. Wet my whistle. All right.
Lined up.
Well, we've been through the intro. We've been through all the beginning stuff.
Sir.
Let's get it fired off. I know it's this is the time of the year. Like, you're a lot more in basketball than I am. I dabble a little bit in hockey. I know you dabble a little bit in hockey, but this is the time of the year that football is the sport.
Right.
We're getting, we've gone through bowl games now. We've got the national title coming up. We're nearing the end of the NFL season. We've got playoff prospects coming in. We've got the playoff picture is starting to get a lot clearer. We've got some teams locked. We've got some unknowns still, both who's going to get in and who's going to perform in the playoffs.
Right.
So let's start it off, with the one that hits home. I feel like the hardest for you and me. We got to talk about, it because it is one of the biggest topics right now in the NFL. Is, man, our Eagles, dude. They are moving out of Philly and into Struggle City right now.
Yeah.
I've got some concerns. I've seen us fight, but I haven't seen the same fight in us in the last few games that we had at the beginning of the season. And I would like to think it's not a situation where we know that we're in, even no matter where we are in the playoffs, we know that we're in, and that kind of lets us take the foot off the gas. I'm really hoping that's not what it is. I don't think that's what it is. Give me your take on where we're headed right now and what we need to improve on before we can get a solid playoff run, if we can at all at this point.
I just think, especially after that, few tough games against the Chiefs and the Bills, where we were lucky to come out on top. We pulled away at the end. Chiefs game was that big drop, and then the Bills game, they had a golden opportunity in overtime. Couldn't capitalize, and we capitalized at the end of that one. But I feel like after that, our stretch was still pretty hard. We had the Cowboys for a second time in Seattle.
And the Cowboys were in Dallas.
They're pretty good in Dallas, but just in general, our guys, I feel like that stretch of schedule really put kind of a hurting on our guys, because you got to think it's a very important game after very important game. So our guys are playing every single snap. There's no breaks, and we all want to be out there because we really want to win that game. Well, there was like 5 games in a row like that. So I feel like after that, especially the last 2 weeks, you've seen games that we're definitely supposed to win. We could have lost the week before to the Giants. That was a close game. Then last week, Arizona exposed us on defense because we had a few laps on defense. We had a few guys that were hurt, and they just took advantage of. But
let's talk about that for a second. I want to hit on that because defense, I feel like right now, the beginning of the season, we had a great defense. To me, we weren't the best defense in the league at all this season. But we had a good defense at the beginning of the season. Easily a playoff caliber defense, a defense that could carry you well into the playoffs.
Yeah.
The last few weeks, I know we've had some defensive coordinator things going on. Matt Patricia taking over as defensive play caller.
Yeah.
I know that changes the dynamic. I know that we've had some injuries. Darius Slay being out, arthroscopic knee surgery. I know he's supposed to be back for the playoffs is what I've been hearing. Avonte Maddox comes back last week, eligible. We've got some guys in the secondary that, to me, are honestly, they're way too damn lax right now. They play hard, and then Seattle, dude. That to me was crazy. You're at the end of the game. There's literally one thing you can't do in that situation. You can't give the big touchdown away at the very end of it. That's all they ask. Don't give away the big touchdown. When we won the Super Bowl, man, we had a defensive coordinator, name has slipped my mind all of a sudden. That's killing me. Jim Schwartz. Schwartz, man, he had that bend, don't break defense that we used. And sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes it hurt us. But most of the time it worked out well. In that situation, that bend, don't break, that's what we needed right there. We needed a defense that was like, hey, if you want 5 yards underneath, take your 5 yards underneath, and we're going to give you that and make the tackle, and we'll stop it and go to the next play. Don't give them something over the top. That's the absolute last thing you can do is give them something over the top. And we just gave it to them right over the top. I mean, that one to me was astounding.
If you look back probably the last 6 weeks, it's kind of a stat nobody really thinks about or looks at a lot. The fact that our defense has been on the field way more percentage of the time than our offense. So we've gotten behind in a lot of those games we played, even the ones we won. Well, when you play from behind, you get back on offense, you want to score quick. So say the defense gives up a long touchdown drive to the Bills or the Chiefs, to begin that game. All that time of possession, we come back out, we got to score quick in 2 minutes. Well, we score, defense is back on the field in 10 minutes. So even though we scored, we're not taking off that time of possession. We're not giving the defense rest. Last year, when we made that Super Bowl run, we had a great defense, but we also had a stellar offense that stayed on the field a lot of the time. We were number one in time of possession last year, number one in rushing, number one in all those categories, and that made our defense better. Even though we had better guys on defense, it made our defense better because they got that rest every game.
We were also, let's not forget, number one in turnovers last year.
Yeah, exactly. Turnovers forced, that helped.
And that's my thing is what you're talking about, your offense wanting to score, wanting to fire right off after you give up the touchdown prior. The problem with that is that's fine if that's what's happening every time. The problem I'm seeing is that defense, they get scored on. They're on these long drives, these long defensive holds. They give up points. We come back out, and we're shooting 3 and out like that, and then we're giving them the ball back, and the defense is coming right back out on the field. And if that only happens once, okay, that's fine. But when that happens 3 or 4 times in a row, your defense is gassed. And, I mean, the thing is, if you gas a defense in the first quarter, even if you have a long offensive drive after 3 or 4 3 and outs or short drives, your defense never regains fully 100%. They're gassed for a good portion of the game. It takes them longer to recover on the sidelines, and their stamina runs out faster from that point on when they hit the field. And I think that to me, is what's really, really hurt us is these guys, by the end of the game, I don't think that they're necessarily not playing up to their level. I think they're gassed.
Well, if you look back at that Cardinals game, we were up 21-3 at one point, and I was following the whole game. They had 70% time of possession at that point in the game. That means they went down the field twice. They had a really long drive, then a short field goal opportunity. Then they had a really long drive, then we had that 99-yard pick six. After that, I was like, okay, we're settling down. We're not going to give up another long drive. We gave up long drives every possession after that, and they scored on every possession after that 21-3 start. So our defense was probably on the field 70% of the time, the whole game, that game. And, it was a close game, but even our offensive drives were so short because we took that deep route. We weren't running. We weren't taking time off. We weren't doing things that we do to win.
That's my next question is on the flip side of it. These games this season, especially later on in the season, the dominant games that we did have later in the season before we started this losing run, all of them on offense, the one thing they all had in common was DeAndre got his opportunities, plenty of them, and he made the most of them happen. Yeah, he has a 2-yard rush here or there, or has a loss of yards every once in a while, but he was getting majority breakout rushes and was making things happen, and I feel like that's something else. I wouldn't say we've necessarily dropped, but we've definitely gotten away from a bit more than what we were earlier in the season. And that, we've talked about that for a long time, is, it's very clear to anybody who knows football is that the run opens up the pass. If you're only throwing the ball all the time, first off, no one's respecting your run at that point, and second off, they know exactly what they have to cover. And I think
it's been so easy for these defenses because we get down 14, 17 points. It's going to be 75% pass, so they're going to be 75% pass defense. And that's why they're having so much success against us the last few weeks and just exposing us. I mean, you can expose any team by any method. Just, like the 1 week Buffalo against the Cowboys. Nobody in the world saw them blowing them out like they did, but they just ran the ball the whole game. Yeah, of course Rachel did, but they just ran the ball the whole game. They fed them some of their medicine they weren't ready for. They're one of the top rushing defenses. Well, let's see.
Well, and James Cook has been he's been a great running back all season, but that was an abnormal game for him even, because you could tell that was their game plan coming in was, James, you're going to get the ball a lot in this game. And he made the most of it. I mean, he knew exactly what his role was going to be from the first snap, and you could tell he wanted every yard that he played for that game. And that's another thing that kind of brings me back to the Eagles, is I've noticed, I feel like going back to what Brent talked about a couple episodes ago when we were talking about Kansas City, I feel like that's where we're at with the Eagles. That word he kept using, and I've loved it, and I've used it a couple of times, crispy. And I'm like, we have not been crisp on offense. We've made some plays, but even the ones we've made, we have not made those plays that last year took your breath away. Like, what? Did you see that? Calling your friends at the end of the game, like, dude, did you see the A.J. Brown? We have not had those plays on a regular this season like we have in years past. And I feel like that's something we have to tighten up. We need that crispiness to go into the playoffs. We have to find a way to just put us in the deep fryer and crisp us up, baby, because
just one game, because even if you look back at the first game of the season, now I know this is teams like just starting to get their ebb and flow going. We face the Patriots. They take us down to the last possession. They seem like they're one of the better teams in the league, and then you see right now they were falling apart. They didn't have a great season. A lot of things went bad for them, but against us, they looked like a pretty good competitor. And then when we went to Washington both times, even in Philly and Washington, we gave up 31 points both times. One of those games at the end, they could have went for 2-1, just like a lot of teams are doing now. Detroit this past week, a lot of teams are doing that now. Rivera decided to kick it, going to overtime, which is smart usually. We get the ball first on a coin toss and win. We could have lost that game. There was a lot of those this year, man. We really weren't crisp on either side of the ball. We kind of grinded at the end of these games to get that 10-1 start, but some of those wins were good, but a lot of those wins were kind of shaky, and we didn't look like the dominant team we were last year. So
absolutely,
I agree.
Do you think that we can be that team this year, as we've seen years past? And I hate to go back and talk about this team because I'm not a huge fan of them, but can we be that Kansas City that? To me, even right now, everybody, I know there's a lot of shit talking about Kansas City, the way they look going in the playoffs right now. And I'm like, everybody out there that's discounting Kansas City right now, you have no idea, obviously, what Kansas City does in the playoffs. Kansas City can go into the playoffs week one and look like a team they haven't been all season. They have a switch that they have somehow figured out the recipe to flip and be a completely different team. Do you think, deep down, not a biased fan, not us being Eagles fans, as a football fan in general, do you think the Eagles truly have the capability to flip that switch going into the playoffs, or do you think that these last few weeks have kind of done us in mentally as well as physically?
I think especially this last game against the Giants, no matter what, we need to just come out and dominate, because we can, and they're a solid team, but they haven't had a great season. We need to take advantage of this opportunity. We've had these last 3 easy games we're supposed to skate through. It's not really happening, so we really have to have this game dominated to get some kind of confidence going in. But I still feel like we have one of the best defenses. All these guys you got in the draft last year, all these Georgia boys that had played together on national championship teams that hadn't lost a game ever. Their confidence is sky high right now, and they all get to play together on our team. We drafted 4 of them in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So, all those guys are in there now. We got Hassan Reddick, all those guys just coaching them up, Fletcher Cox, and, hopefully Darius Slay can come back. I'm not sure how long his recovery time is, but he's definitely a leader on that defensive unit.
Our defense has been completely different
without him, just because they know they can exploit, the other team's best receiver. They know they can exploit our secondary, because really our best guy at corner, even though, he's supposed to be covering the other team's best receiver, he's got a lot of other options as well. He's got to cover, because there's not many options at corner that we have. So, overall, I think we can overcome this. We're going to have a tougher schedule, most likely, because I don't see Dallas losing to Washington. We're probably going to have to be the ones that play Tampa Bay now. It was going to be them playing Tampa Bay at San Fran, just like last year, but now it's probably going to be us, so we got something to prove. They're not going to be an easy team by any means. They're pretty hot right now. They got some skilled athletes, but I'd really like a shot at that San Fran team one more time, just to prove that we still have a good team.
Most definitely.
I don't see us getting destroyed like we did the first time.
And I'll be honest with you, Personally, I don't mind the matchup if we get in there with Tampa Bay. I don't truly mind it. Tampa Bay's a great team. Tampa Bay's a great team. Baker still he still has some consistencies that he's always had in his career, some consistency issues that he's always had in his career, in my book, and I think he's exploitable in the playoffs. I could be wrong. He'd come in there and throw for 450 yards on us with 5 touchdowns and make us look absolutely terrible. That could definitely happen, but that could happen with any team because you don't know what Baker you're going to get in that game. So that I don't truly mind. I will say this. Tell me your feelings before we move on from the Eagles. Let's talk about AJ for just a second. I know that's your boy. Let's talk about AJ Brown because I saw some reports today that made me feel a little bit better about it. A lot of stuff on the sidelines looked like some heated issues going on. Skipping the post-game interview. As an Eagles fan, I was a little bit concerned with seeing that report about him skipping post-game and just seeing the issues and knowing that, there's been this, dark cloud of issues over him, it seems like, on the sideline all season when we're not doing it our greatest. So you tell me how you're feeling about AJ right now, because I'm going to hit on afterwards what I actually read, the article that just came out today where he had addressed the media about what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really think about this. Just, I gain more knowledge as a sports fan. The more years you watch this game, the more you pick up on. And especially the last, 6 or 7 games, I've noticed the top receivers on every team, when Jamar Chase has been healthy, they were shutting him down some games, where they keyed in on him double team. Travis Kelce, probably the last 5 or 6 games, it's not that he's getting shut down. It's they're double and triple teaming him. Their shadow coverage, everything. They're having 2 guys on him at all times. That's what they're doing with AJ.
Well, but Travis, you can't think of it quite like that with Travis, though, because Travis has got to be distracted on the sidelines because, he's got a proposal to figure out where he's going to drop this question at. So, I'm kidding.
No, he has been, going through the new relationship stuff, but I still think he's, just like you said, they're a dangerous team in the playoffs. He's hungry right now. In the past few weeks, I know he's been very, upset. He was throwing his helmet down last week. Even when they were winning, just because he wasn't having success, he was getting double teamed. Mahomes is not going to throw him the ball when he's double teamed. Yeah. Same with Hurts. When they got 2 guys on Brown, I'm sorry, you're not going to get the ball. And especially going into every game, they know he's our best guy. They know he's our best weapon. So they're going to try to take him out as many plays as possible. So that's what these teams are trying to do, and it works. Look at Baltimore against Tyreek. Yeah. They go into that game. Everyone thinks it's going to be a great game, 2 offensive matchup. It was for one team. They shut down Tyreek the whole game. They let up some run game, but Tyreek didn't score or have 100 yards.
Speaking of Tyreek, I do just want to put a shout-out out there. I read the article that had just come out a little while ago. Tyreek's house on fire in Miami this afternoon. Prayers out for him and his family. I know they said his family had gotten out. Everybody was safe.
Like a forest fire?
He was... They didn't really say. They said firefighters were battling a fire at his residence, but that his family, everybody was out, everybody was safe. He had left the practice in Buffalo, I believe, to go back home for a short time before coming back. So, our prayers go out to him.
Go out to him, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know. We're not, we've got rivals, we got teams we don't want to see do well, but at the same time, as humans, we don't want to see anything like that. Injuries and hear about terrible stuff like that happening. So. Like I said, our thoughts and prayers go out to him. I hope everybody's okay, and I hope that he gets back, and I hope that they have a great, entertaining game against the Buffalo Bills, even though I'm hoping the Bills pull through with that one because that makes my home life a lot easier, knowing that my wife is happy about it. So back to the AJ. So this is the article that came out today. He addressed the media today about what his frustrations were with Nick Sirianni. Frustrations with the coordinators. They wanted him to open up, and he did. And he told them straight up that he was like, we're on board with Nick the whole way. He said, my frustrations have nothing to do with Nick Sirianni. He said his frustrations have nothing to do with their offensive calls and their offensive coordinator right now. He said the main thing that you were seeing on the sidelines was at the end of the game, and it was because they were struggling in a position, and then Devontae Smith had gotten banged up. He was quoted in saying, I was upset because I'm going to need Smitty in the playoffs. And so he was upset, I think, on top of losing, knowing that one of his, good friends and close, colleagues on the field had gotten banged up at the end of the game, and I think that just kind of overflowed onto the sideline. But he had come out and said that he's still on board with the program, and he still wants the same thing he's wanted the whole time. And that made me, as a fan, a lot more comfortable about the situation because, quite honestly, that's what I want to see. If that's really what's going on, I want to see that drive. I want to see that anger. I want it to be controlled, but I want to see guys go out on that field and show that they can use that anger in a good way and make the plays that everybody wants to see them make. So, best wishes to A.J. Brown. I hope everything works out. I hope that's true, how that really, what his mindset truly is right now.
And I agree with that.
As Eagles fans, we do have some of the roughest fans, and I'm going to say this, and Eagles fans everywhere will probably hate me for it, but any Eagles fan right now that's like, you need to get rid of Sirianni and you need to clean house, they can all shut the hell up, because that is not – Nick Sirianni has been awesome as a head coach since he's come on. The dude has done very little, if anything, truly wrong. The dude has been really a godsend for what we needed after the whole thing with Peterson. I'm like, we needed something to help us out when we're losing a Super Bowl coach. We don't know what's going to happen. So when Sirianni came in, quite honestly, I didn't know nothing about the guy. I was like, oh, we're doomed. I've never heard anything that this guy's truly done. And the dude comes in and shows like he's got what it takes to lead these guys out. And any Eagles fan that has lost faith in him because of a few bad games, they need to turn their fucking TVs off and stop watching football, because they can go watch tennis or something. That's ridiculous to think that after all that the dude's done, we have a couple bad games and they're all of a sudden they're like, fire him and cut ship with him and all that. Man, kiss my ass. Go watch another sport. You're not a true Eagles fan if that's really how you feel about it.
Yeah, and, maybe not the Giants game, which was still very close, but the Seattle and Arizona game, the last minute of the game, we were winning the game, and, that's not his fault that we give up that touchdown at the end of both of those games. I mean, honestly, the Seattle game, that was just two really good plays. Yeah, we didn't have Slay, but they made two really good plays to beat us. In Arizona, they just flat out, they just had us tired. They had the whole defense tired, and that's how they scored. You can't blame the head coach for that as far as, defense being tired or the wrong plays being called. It's not all his fault. You can't put all the blame on him. Putting blame on somebody in general is a bad thing to do. You got to look at it as a positive side, because it's only a regular season game. We're still got life. We still got a shot. You got to stay positive throughout this time, or else, more and more stuff's going to get negative, and then we're going to end up losing the first round.
Yep, so. Absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's switch over to another team that we are not huge fans of. Let's talk about the Lions fiasco, man. Let's talk about this for a second, because it was a good game. It was a good game all the way through. Quite honestly, if you want I didn't think that Dallas performed up to their level. But that's not taking anything away from Detroit, because Detroit has been a dark horse team this season. I'm going to tell you now, I personally did not see Detroit coming through with any kind of success like what they've had. They've been an under-the-radar team for a lot of the season. I still thought going into that game that Dallas was going to walk the dog all over them. And they didn't. Detroit showed that they belonged to be in the mix with these top caliber teams. Mm-hmm. Everything looked like a great game to the very end. I didn't even mind the calls at the end as far as the play calls. I didn't mind the decisions in which direction they were trying to go. And, I know we had some group talk about it in the fantasy group today. Going back and looking, I have seen some interviews and I have seen some pictures and stuff. I do have to say my mindset has been swayed a bit. I do believe that there was some trickery that was involved in that didn't work out for Detroit. And the fallback was, because nobody, as fans, knew what the trickery was, they assumed that the referees just didn't do their jobs and gave the game to Dallas. I will say it kind of piggybacks on the bad officiating this season. That's what happens when you have bad officiating, is anytime something crazy like that happens, the fingers will be pointed at the officials first. Right. Reading the interviews, checking the pictures and stuff, it wasn't the officials' fault. And, talking to Robert earlier on the phone, even he said, they announce eligibility when you come to the line. If Detroit didn't like what that eligibility call was, audible it out and run another play. so that you're not getting penalized for stuff like that. You have to play it safe at that point in the game. You can't risk it when you're that close to at least going to overtime. And on a call like that, I think that the Lions didn't get hosed on that one like everybody would like to believe. But that's just my opinion. I mean,
the whole thing was the game wasn't over that call.
Mm-hmm.
However, like we talked about it earlier, we had a pretty creative discussion in our group chat. Robert mentioned that there was a tripping call earlier in that drive. They don't succeed and gain a touchdown probably, unless that call happens. Okay, that's true. That call wasn't made, but that did not decide the game. The call that decided the game was that last call. Like I compared it to the Super Bowl call. They did not have to call that call. That was the reason that the game was decided in the Cowboys' factor. Now, I also said this. On the 6-yard line after that penalty, because, they didn't report eligible, they got that 5-yard penalty, they're on the 6. That's when you kick the extra point as a coach. It's two good teams. You're not fighting as like a playoff game. You're 5-11. You're 11-5. Mm-hmm. You're going for a 12-4 record. Go for that overtime because first off, you have one of the best O-line, if not the best O-line in the league. 2 dominant running backs, great receivers, great tight ends, great quarterback. You get the ball, you probably score and win the game anyway. Yeah. So I get how he's upset. But at the 6-yard line, dude, okay, just take it. Whatever. We kick it, we go into overtime. We still have a chance at least. Don't get so pissed off and then try to go for it again and then not get it on the 6. There's a reason you didn't get it because it's so hard. On goal-to-go situations, from the 5 and up is really hard. From the 6 and back, that's almost impossible because all they're going to be doing is guarding that goal line. They're not going to be allowing anything.
And the red zone is the hardest place to score.
Exactly,
that's
man.
Why it's the red zone.
And
it's the hardest area
to go,
to score.
Man. Fourth and goal to go.
I agree with you.
Kick it.
I agree with you completely. I think going forward in that situation was a good go until you get the penalty.
Exactly.
When you get the penalty, it has to change.
5-11 like every year. They were 11-5.
And the penalty itself changes the dynamic, but not how everyone has been talking about it. The penalty itself changes the dynamic exactly how you said. It has to change your offensive call at that point. You have to say, okay, your percentage chance, at the goal line, your percentage chance might be 65, 70% success. That 5-yard penalty puts you at 6 yards. Your percentage chance of success has to go down to like at 30%, something like
less
that.
Than that, man. Goal to go, man, that's like 15, 10%.
And so, to me, I agree with you. I think the Lions shot themselves in the foot on that one, personally.
And they shot us in the foot, really, because them not going into overtime and winning that game, even though we lose against the Cardinals, all right, we shot ourselves in the foot, we could have survived that. And still got second place. We didn't deserve it, like he said earlier. Neither one of our teams deserved second place.
No.
But we could have had the opportunity if the man had just kicked the extra point.
Yeah.
Why go for 2 again?
Because with 2 offenses like Detroit and Dallas, you're playing for the coin flip.
Yeah,
if you win that coin flip, again,
that's what I'm saying.
Your percentage of success goes way up on either of those teams if you get on the ball first in overtime. You're going to have probably a really high chance. You're going to have well over 50% chance to score.
But even then, though Detroit scored on their last drive, it was 20-20. The game was not an offensive game. Yeah. Both defenses were doing really good. So even if Dallas gets the ball first in overtime, kicks a field goal, Detroit can still go back and win. Mm-hmm. They had so many opportunities. It just killed me the way that ended, 2 good teams going for 2 at the end. I get the motion on, he said before the drive started, we're going to score and we're going for 2. Okay, perfect. But if a penalty happens, there's got to be a backup plan.
Yeah, you have to be able to
be a backup plan.
That plan has to be fluid. That's how football works. You can't.
He's used to having those losing seasons. Fuck it, let's go for it.
That's why when you see teams talk about scripting the first 30 plays, that's fine. But at some point in those 30 plays that you script, you're going to have to audible something. You need to move plays around because if you run strictly a script for so many plays, eventually the defense is going to do something that's going to ruin your script, and then you're screwed.
I tell you what, especially during the playoffs, because he's going to be in there this year actually, and the Lions, are not in there at all really, and they have a great team. Don't blow it on going for 2 at the end of the game to cost them a win.
100%.
Like against the Ravens, you have a chance to win. Go into overtime, dude. You should be blessed to even have that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? That's what, at the end of that Cowboys game, especially after that tripping call, you should be blessed to even have that touchdown. So, I don't know. That's all I got.
Well, speaking of Ravens, let's jump on the Ravens for a second. All I've got written down for the Ravens, man. Are they the team to beat right now? Are they the team to beat?
Past 2 weeks, 2 Super Bowl contenders, 49ers and the Dolphins, that made them bend down and,
The Dolphins wasn't as surprising as the 49ers.
Yeah, and I analyzed that game. I watched it very closely. For one, I lost one of my big fantasy leagues because McCaffrey didn't score at the end of that game, but we'll go into that later. Just Purdy, man. Just the first drive, for example, he had 2 really big plays to the 15, first and 15. After 2 big passes, don't go for a third big pass. Run the ball. You got the best running back in the country, the best guy in your backfield, and a good O-line. Run the ball at that point. Okay, you got 2 deep passes. You should be lucky you got that. Run the ball, score. He went for 3 in a row. He was trying to just do so many big things in the moment, and I get that, but you don't have to go for it every time. I understand your offense being a big play offense.
Yeah.
Hit it when it's there. The man had 4 picks in 3 quarters of play. As soon as Darnold comes in, he throws a touchdown, and they don't even allow Purdy back in the game. They're wondering why. Why can't you get Purdy back in? He's ready to go. Because he threw 4 picks, 0 touchdowns. Sam Darnold's first drive in the game gets a touchdown. Wonder why coach leaves him in.
Hot hand, baby.
But yeah, even though they lose that game, they scored some points at the end. They exploited them, and that was their thing. Baltimore allowed them to get a few big plays off, but they knew Purdy was going to go big or go home. So after that second big play, especially on that first drive, they were looking for the big play again, and they tricked him. They double-teamed the guy that he was on, looking for Debo, double-team, boom, pick, and that was the rest of the game. Pick.
I'll tell you now, next year, their 3-headed monster running game, when Keaton comes back, that's going to be ridiculous.
How about this dude Likely, man? This dude Likely's playing an all-star.
Yeah.
But remember, they lost probably the best tight end in the league besides Kelsey and Mark Andrews. Imagine having both of those guys and all those runs. Don't forget, who'd they lose at the beginning of the year? J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, actually, I'm not
Keaton
even
Mitchell,
thinking about J.K.
Gus Edwards, and
Justice.
Good grief.
Yeah,
and don't
ridiculous.
forget the best running back of all, Lamar Jackson.
Which the thing is, though, there's no way at the end of the season, no matter how far they go or how far they don't go in the playoffs, there's no way they keep all 4 of those running backs.
No, and I think Keaton came in because of injuries. You got to see how good he was because of injuries, and Gus is starting because of injuries. So
if Keaton
that's a good thing, I think.
Hadn't had such a bad injury,
I know.
His stock goes up so much at the end of the season.
Both of them, J.K. and Keaton, graphic torn ACL injuries.
Crazy.
Not barely, just they destroyed their knees. Just sad to see.
I see getting messages right now in the group chat that Dr. Mike is over here talking shit again. Real quick on that fantasy note, how'd you feel this afternoon when the projections swapped over?
What projections?
Ronnie was projected this morning 41 points ahead of you, and something has happened in the projections. He has lost something like 12 points on his projection against you. It's
probably, I can imagine, especially in being the last week, a few of my leagues already ended. So I could imagine it being maybe a starter that's not playing as much. Their projection went down.
I was going to hit on that. So they announced just a little while ago, they announced players that were starting to come out and say they were sitting for the last week. And Ravens, man, the big one, Lamar, sitting.
Yeah,
last week.
Most 49ers, most Chiefs. I'm not going to have Pacheco or Kittle in the final round.
On a side note,
be hard.
On a side note, I just want to let the fantasy league know that when we have our fantasy shindig at the end, we are going to talk about shortening the season for a week, so that our final week of the championship is not decided in a week where we got guys sitting. But
Yeah,
that's not for the podcast.
It's just hard. It's hard in ESPN League. Like I do Yahoo League.
Yeah.
And you can change it however you want, like the settings or whatever. But that's a 1 week playoff thing, and you could stop it at week 17 instead of going to 18. The ESPN is so hard because it's 2 week playoffs.
Yeah.
So you would have to start your playoff in week 13.
Yeah.
So.
Well, real quick, I've got mine set in my mind. Your Super Bowl matchup right now, as it sits, we're not even done with the season. We're not in the playoffs. Playoff picture's just starting to really evolve. Give me your pick right now. What do you got?
As much as I hate to say it, I think obviously the Ravens take the Lions in a close matchup and go. And unfortunately, I'm going to say the Niners. They probably. Well, no. Let's see. The Lions are in the NFC, so I would say the Niners take it over the Lions in the NFC and the AFC.
So you're saying that the Niners beat the Lions?
Yeah, Niners beat the Lions, and then Baltimore plays most likely Kansas City. I'm gonna say they beat them.
All right. So what do you got?
Baltimore versus San Fran.
Yeah, fucker, that was my pick. I've got San Fran Baltimore rematch. I've got San Fran 31, Baltimore 21. I've got defenses coming to play in that game a lot more, and I've got Purdy looking to make some action.
I'll say Baltimore 24-21, and I'll also say Mr. Harbaugh's twin brother gets a championship too.
Oh, all right. Moving right into it. Let's do it.
That would be pretty cool.
We got Michigan. You got Michigan over Washington, huh?
Washington's been probably one of my favorite teams to play, or favorite teams to watch this year, because they just been even the last game they were underdogs somehow. They beat Oregon twice. The last game against Oregon, they were like 8-point underdogs. Like, are you crazy?
I'm going to tell you right now.
That guy's a champion. Them dude,
Texas held with them, and they tried to come back at the end.
Yeah, that was.
But I'm going to tell you now, for quite a lot of that game, Texas quarterback did not look sharp. He did not look sharp. Washington, though, I'm going to tell you now, Washington, I haven't paid a lot. I've paid attention to them, not necessarily in video or watching their games, but, some stats here and there. But I'm going to tell you now, actually sitting there watching them play Texas, that is a high-flying team right there. They are fast.
They're one of the best O-lines and running backs in the league.
The moment you take your eyes off of them, they are a blur past you. They have a ton of speed out there on offense and on defense. That defense, man, I was amazed at how fast their defense is and that they never seem to really get tired.
Yeah.
And I was like, usually you've got your two kinds of defense. You've got your big guys and you've got your fast guys. And fast defenses, I'm always a fan of big defenses because I'm like, oh, you get big guys out there, they're big no matter what. Fast defenses, when they get tired, they're no longer fast and they're not big. Those dudes at Washington, they are fast all game long. Yeah, and they never slow down.
It's really because that offense stays on the field, a good amount of time, almost every drive, and that's been consistent all year. So that's a really good formula for the defense to stay healthy, no injuries, get clean or fresh guys in at all times, And I saw something earlier, which might shock, the whole football world, but there's only, I think, one other guy to have 4,500 yards in consecutive seasons besides Michael Penix of Washington. And I'll give you the guess. College football history, the only other player to have 4,500 yards in 2 consecutive seasons. It was recently.
2 consecutive seasons?
4,500 in 2 consecutive college football seasons.
Was it Jalen?
No.
No? Who was it?
Mr. Patrick Mahomes.
Ah.
Because they were nothing but air raid at Texas Tech.
That's true. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Jalen was at Alabama and Oklahoma.
That
year at Oklahoma he went off, but he was only there 1 year.
Yeah. That was so let's talk about Michigan over Alabama. I'm like, let's be honest here. No love lost for Alabama over here.
Honestly, man, that, just like the last play of the game in the Detroit game, I understand the QB draw, and that's been a very successful play, but you're talking about this is the last play, possibly of your season. draw up a pass play right there, and guess what? The pass isn't there, then you run.
Well,
Because that's been your thing all year, the scramble. Like
the problem with
a
that
run up
is
the middle, they were ready for that. They were
Jalen-
keying in on that.
Jalen Milroe to me is not a good passer. I'm
You're
gonna take that back. I'm gonna take that back. He's a good passer. He's not a great passer.
They were rushing him all game, though,
and you
they
could
were
tell
making it really
you could
hard
tell
on
pressure.
him.
He did not throw well under
Exactly.
pressure. Even when he wasn't touched, he just felt pressure coming. He was still way off on his accuracy.
And I really hate saying this because I talked about it so much, but man, like I get it. That was a great game from Alabama's point, and I'm not gonna lie. Defense was the whole entire reason they were in that game. Guess who also had a pretty good defense? Florida State. And I don't see our offensive line giving up 5 freaking sacks in the first half. Go back to any good team we played this year. We didn't give up 5 sacks the whole game.
Well,
Like, our O-line was one of the best. Our defensive line, there's no way Michigan gets, even if we start Tate Rodemaker, our second string, he's not getting pressure like that. And all of our skill guys are there. I still don't see that happening. It was a great game, but I feel like we play a better game, honestly.
I know that it hasn't come out, and nobody has said anything official. And I'm over it finally. Like, Florida State, the season's done for us. We got our asses handed to us in a bowl game. To be honest with you, I didn't even watch the bowl game because, like we've been talking about, and I've said
agree.
That wasn't the Fiesta or the Rose or the Orange. That was the irrelevant bowl. Is all that shit was, and it was a slap in the face to
Freshman Bowl.
It was a slap in the face to both Georgia and Florida State in my book.
Yeah.
I'm glad Georgia, dude. Whatever. I'm glad they got their win at the end. I'm glad that they came out and set whatever second highest bowl game or some shit like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. I was reading somebody online posting some fake stuff about how that Georgia had the same amount of players sitting or transferring as Florida State.
I was arguing
and I was
with
like,
some guy earlier, man.
I was like, dude, no, this isn't even close. Your stats are completely skewed on this.
All
this
those guys were not even playing.
Yeah.
I had that same list. I had a list of productivity percentage.
Yeah.
All of our guys, 81% of our productivity percentage was not playing in that game.
Yeah. And so that's
17% of their productivity percentage was not playing.
Yeah.
So that means all of their productivity was pretty much in that game.
Yeah.
All of ours was sitting on the bench or getting ready for the draft or transferring. So, dude, just do the math. When you take every bit of a team's percentage of production out, they're not going to score.
Yep. Absolutely.
Like, I called the game 62-6 before I knew any of that.
Yep.
So, like, I knew I didn't want to watch it either. I agreed. I'm not going to watch that game because it doesn't matter.
Yep.
We're not competing for anything. That's why these guys didn't want to play.
And just, a shout out there. Looking for a couple more subs out there for the podcast. But Cynthia, our Aunt Jill, congratulations to your Bulldogs. I would have loved to have seen our Seminoles play you guys at full strength. Would have loved to have seen that. But congratulations on your season. It is what it is.
They just proved, like they shouldn't have been snubbed either, in my opinion. They should have at least made it in over like Texas or Bama. Like, I felt bad for Georgia, really.
I'll tell you right now, Georgia puts up more of a fight against Michigan than Alabama.
God, and I honestly thought they were the best team all year. This year again, even without Stetson and all those guys last year, because they kept, winning 2 championships in a row. Just like when Florida State, we won the championship and then lost the next year, but we went like 26-1 in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Our recruiting was one of the best because everyone wanted to come to our school. That's what Georgia was like, man. Every number 1 recruit wanted to come there, so no matter if they were a freshman or not, they were great. And that's why when it's third string versus third string, they won 21-0 in the second half. Yeah, your third stringers were better than our third stringers. Congrats. Our first string versus your first string? Let's see. I don't think so.
Well,
but we'll never know. We'll never know.
That's, that kind of leads me into kind of the big one that I really wanted to hit on at the end of this thing. So this whole bowl season, and especially, I didn't want to harp on it a lot. But after seeing us get our asses kicked that bad with this whole thing, with the College Football Playoff Committee, and playing Georgia and not having starters and having this plethora of guys transferring out, opting not to play, all this stuff. I started doing some information digging on this whole NIL process. NIL, name, image, likeness. These are players cashing in on basically selling and promoting different things. So my big thing is, especially after this year, and there's some coaches coming out, and one of the big ones was Georgia's head coach, who came out publicly and said things have to change because this is ruining college football. He said the powers that be need to decide what direction they want college football to go, because this is going in a bad direction. And it is. And I agree with him wholeheartedly. And some other coaches that I've read, I'm not going to sit here and name all of them, but some other coaches I've read, and then just kind of building my own opinion on it, looking this up and seeing how this works. So, in 2 years, we've had record numbers of players enter transfer portals. One of the big reasons for this is the way the NIL is working. Perfect example, Caleb Williams. You watch any Fansville commercials this year? Caleb Williams, man, new spokesperson for Dr. Pepper. He's the guy. So here's the thing. Before the NIL opened up, you couldn't do that in college. You were an amateur student athlete. You could not sell your image. You could not sell rights to anything like that. You could not make money. And I know I said something earlier. I'm going to throw it out there real quick. Just remember that, for lack of better words, Johnny Manziel was basically crucified in college football for selling some autographs to get to trading autographs. Not even selling them, trading autographs so that he could get a tattoo. That's what he got in trouble for. That is like a drop in the bucket compared to what's happening right now in college football. And I get it. Oh, well, the NIL wasn't like it is now. He wasn't allowed to do that back then. Whatever. I don't really care. The NIL is killing college football, and it's killing these bowl games. College football might think that it's a good thing because you have players who have the ability now to move around from this big school to this big school to this big school and make some money here and there and bring some really big numbers into these other schools and kind of spread it out. They think that there's going to be money made for the NCAA in that. But I'm going to tell you this. You keep this up for another 2 or 3 years, these college bowl games are going to start losing tremendous amounts of money. You're going to start losing these big sponsorships. For sure. You're going to see these big bowl games that have always been classics. They're going to lose their sponsorship. These companies are not going to continue paying for games where players don't want to play. Okay, you're going to end up with basically teams that are not having starters, not having anyone play unless you're in a national title game. And, everyone that I've heard that says, well, next year, expanded playoff, that's going to help. No, it's not. That doesn't guarantee anything. Expanded playoffs does not guarantee anything. If anything, expanded playoffs, this hurts expanded playoffs. Because you expand the playoffs, okay, you've got 12 teams in now. You think that just because a team is in an expanded playoff, you think these guys who are like, well, I can play and we can have a shot at a national title, or I can be guaranteed not to get hurt and be a top 10 draft pick for the draft. I'm not playing. These are all huge issues in my book. And honestly, this whole thing with the NIL opening up, it was setting alarms off in my head before they even made this. They even made it where they had the loopholes to do this. Because that's, to be honest with you, from what I've read, these players, these are loopholes that they're getting paid through, basically. And there are lawmakers right now that are working with the NCAA, apparently, to figure out a more defined way of doing this. And that's, to me, that's what I feel like has to happen. Because just a couple of numbers I'll throw out there. And you know, not a college guy. You went to college. A Radford alum, man. So I don't know what your tuition looked like when you were at Radford. But this is what I'm finding here. Tuition. Average tuition for D1 school. $30,000 a semester. Mm-hmm. That's expensive. That's a lot of money. Yeah. Books, $500 a semester. Mm-hmm. Room and board, $8,500 a semester. These are all averages.
Yeah, that's about right.
Fees, $1,000 a semester. So on average, D1 collegiate athlete, you're looking at $40,000 a semester for everything. Now, if you're playing scholarship ball or scholarship sport at all, your tuition is most likely mostly covered, if not all covered.
Right.
Full rides, you're covering it all. I personally don't know if full ride, how it works with your room and board, but for the sake of argument, we're going to say full rides don't cover your room and board. And we're going to say full rides don't cover your books. And we're going to say full rides, all they're covering is your tuition. So here, you take $30,000 away from it, it leaves you with $10,000 per semester.
Right.
So here's my thing. You have players right now, I'm going to name a couple of them, big name players out there, just to throw it out there, that are making this money off likeness rights. The schools, to me, I think it's crazy to think that somewhere the schools aren't paying money somehow to these. It's not just companies that are paying money. The schools are paying someone to pay the kids. I don't care what anybody says.
Right.
That is definitely something that's going on. There is money being transferred to have players move from school to school. I don't give a damn what anybody says. You call me a conspiracy theorist. There is no way logically you can tell me that that's not happening somewhere in college football right now because people aren't looking for it anymore.
Right.
It used to be under a magnifying glass, and now you're looking at it from a mile away. They're not looking at it as hard as they were, so it's not being regulated the same way. Sam Hartman from Notre Dame, his NIL valuation this year, $1.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Penix, Washington, going to the title game. NIL valuation, $1.3 million. Mm-hmm. Marvin Harrison Jr., going to be a top draft pick, going to the NFL. I don't know what a rookie contract's going to look like for him coming in, but I know his NIL valuation for this year is $1.4 million. Travis Hunter.
Interesting.
Travis Hunter, $2.2 million.
Plays for Prime.
Go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask. I know you want to know. Ask me. Ask what the guy makes. Say the name.
Shedeur.
You want to know Shedeur Sanders?
4.5.
$5.2 million. That's insane. I get it that they're saying that schools aren't paying this money, that these are companies paying this money. They're using their likenesses. They're having them endorse products through social media and stuff. All of these guys that have these valuations, if you look up the valuations, it also shows how many followers they have. And that tells me that's how this works. They try to get these young guys who have these social media accounts blowing up, and they use the fact that they have 2 million followers, and they're like, shit, if he has 2 million followers, that's 2 million people are going to see our product, and that's 2 million people that are going to probably want to buy our product because they're a fan of him. This is where I have the issue. That's fine, making money, whatever. I get it. Collegiate athletes are amateurs.
Mm-hmm.
You are amateurs. As an amateur, part of being an amateur is not getting paid money. You don't get paid as an amateur. That's part of it. The rule has always been if you are a collegiate athlete, you cannot accept anything for playing. To me, that's how it should have remained. Now, on the flip side of that, the reason I went over those averages earlier, if you want to run an NIL deal, to me, the only way that you can make that work is you got to put it back under the magnifying glass. Mm-hmm. You got to look at everything a lot harder for every. And yes, the NCAA may have to hire a new committee that looks into this stuff constantly. You take the average of what each player is having to pay. You average that out, and the NIL has a cap. The NIL will allow a player to be paid up to a certain amount. If it's up to me, looking at the numbers, the average for most of these players, they're getting paid something like $10,000 to $50,000 for a lot of these things. That's great. That's probably closer to what we should be looking at. But to me, if you want to make the game, if you want to give the players the opportunity to make a little money and make college easier for themselves, but still keep the sanctity of college football, I think you have to set a limit. And it needs to be close to what these players will have to pay in extra stuff throughout their each college year that they're playing. It should be something that is going to provide them room and board and books. And depending on their scholarship, if they're not on full ride, but they're good enough for an NIL deal, maybe part of their tuition. If they're on full ride, the tuition should be covered anyway. Room and board, books, fees, and a little bit extra on top for food. So these guys aren't having to work part or full-time jobs while they're playing collegiate football, making these schools a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest here, that to me, the student athletes are not the criminals in this one. They're not the crooks. They're trying to make the best for themselves. And that I get, and I want to make that very clear that I'm not hating on these kids for playing sports and trying to make a little money. I get that.
Yeah.
What I don't like is the fact that college football should not be money. It should be college. It should be about getting an education and playing a sport that you want to move on to the professional level at. That is what college football for almost my entire life has been, and that's what it should remain in my book. You can say, oh, well, times are changing and things are evolving. That's not evolution. That's not the evolution of the game, is kids making millions of dollars in college. That is not the evolution of it. That, to me, is like, I can't even think of the right word to describe how I feel about that, because to me it's not right.
Yeah, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong because kids, if you have that goal, especially like if you're going to a college on scholarship where you're not a classroom guy, you're not a test taker, you're going to this college specifically to play football. So in the next 1 to 2 years, you need to show out on that field in order to get to the pros. That's how you make money. If you really want to be a student, you want to be a student athlete, most likely you're going to stay all 4 of those years and focus on what you want to do after college. You don't need to focus on making that money right now. You need to focus on the books and learning everything you need to know about these classes, every detail, about your profession in order to be better once you're out of there. These guys that focus strictly on money and all these endorsements right now, like you said, Caleb Williams, he's still one of my favorite players, but especially last year, I predicted that he was going to win the Heisman at the beginning of last year. He was one of my favorite players to watch. He was just, in my mind, one of the best dual threat guys in the game. And I obviously had the right prediction. And I thought after that, sky's the limit for him. He's going to the draft. He's going to be number 1. He's about to be making hella money. He decided to stay to go win a championship. And I get that, man. But, dude, did you even know who was coming back to your school this past year? They had one of the worst defenses in the game. Now, Jordan Travis with our team, that makes sense because last year we went 10-3 and we had a real shot of going. We had a few really close games. We had a real shot of going. That's the reason he came back this year. But Caleb Williams wanting to stay to win a championship with that USC team after winning a Heisman, and I think they only lost like 1 or 2 games last year, having a great season, just putting your NFL draft stock at its peak. Now, this guy goes into the draft. He's still going to be top 5, top 6 draft pick because of the need of teams with quarterbacks. But, I disagree with the fact that he stayed another year in college. He's now doing all this NIL bullshit. He has to do this to get some kind of money before he becomes a professional. It just doesn't make sense to me because
Caleb Williams, real quick.
Yeah.
His NIL valuation. If I want to hear somebody tell me that this had nothing to do with him coming back. NIL valuation, $2.6 million. $2.6 million. That's going to be close to what you're making a year as a rookie quarterback, most likely.
Play a whole nother college season, though, and then probably not even graduate because he's graduating as a junior. Or he's going into the draft as a junior, so, he's not going to graduate. So
that's what I'm saying. So,
it's like, man, why?
To say that, that the money's not that the money is a driving factor. $2.6 million. I'm sorry, I don't care if I'm the number 1 draft pick. $2.6 million. If I know I'm going to make something like that, I'm going to definitely consider coming back into school for another year and playing. If I know I'm going to be in college, making that kind of money.
I still think though, like especially with Caleb Williams, like he goes into the draft. Last year, he becomes, a prominent guy in the league. This year, he doesn't do the best, but, he makes a name for himself. He can still get on those commercials, man. He's going to be a face of the NFL. Everyone watches the NFL. He could be in the same commercials as he is now.
Professional sports is all about the endorsements. It's all about the endorsements.
Exactly.
Look at Shohei. He deferred all that money in on his Dodgers contract, and then they're like, well, you're not going to make but $2 million a year. And then he was like, oh, yeah, no worries. I pull in $47 million on average in endorsements. Professional sports is where the endorsements are.
Adidas. all they want to do is sign him.
So, that to me, the NIL, like, I get it. Players should be protected. They should. But they should, in my book, be what they've always been, is student athletes. They should be students first and athletes second.
Yeah.
I want my son, my 5-year-old son, when he grows up, I want him looking up to players. I don't want him looking up to players because they made $5.2 million in college playing football. That's not the guys I want him looking up to. I want him looking up to guys like Larry Fitz, who played an illustrious career in the NFL, who was a great wide receiver, one of the best all time in my book. And at the end of his career, you know what he did?
Went to school.
He went back to school and finished.
University of Phoenix.
And I'm going to tell you now, to me, that's so admirable. That's the kind of guys that I want my son looking up to. And that's what I worry about with a son, your nephew, who's becoming an athlete and is showing promise in certain things. I don't want him to turn into that. I don't want him to go to college and be like, I'm going to this college. I'm going to Texas, Dad. Oh, yeah, why are you going to Texas? Because they've got a good education? No. Why are you going to Texas? Because, you like the Longhorns? No. Why are you going to Texas? Because you like their football program? No, I'm going to Texas because I know that I can go there and make a shit ton of money. That worries me so much to hear things like that. And that, maybe I'm wrong. This is all opinionated stuff. But I know that seeing everything that's happened with Florida State, especially here at the end, transfer portal and stuff, I know these players, I know some of them are moving on because they will make
of all the bullshit and all the just distractions, like the NIL that's going on. Like, a lot of these college guys, like, I just want to get away. I'm done. I love Florida State. I respect everything about them. I'm ready to get out of here, get onto the professional scene.
Well, and that was something I had
get away from this stuff
for these guys that are that are going to be taking these NIL deals and looking into the pros. That's something that I feel like has to be addressed as well in college football. I feel like there has to be something, maybe part of your scholarship deal or something like that, that it doesn't matter if you're in a bowl game or not. It doesn't matter if you're a BCS bowl game or a regular bowl game. It doesn't matter if you're going pro or anything like that. To me, if you want to save the bowl games, you have to make it a requirement. You have to make it a requirement of these guys that if you are healthy and eligible to play, you need to play in your final game for your team. That your team has done everything for you at that point. They're what has made you big name at that point. If you're in these games and you have these options, you need to play these games. To me, personally, I was fucking livid to see how many of our guys. The only thing I could think that made me a little bit happier was I was like, I hope that this is a protest. I hope that they're sitting in protest to what happened. That's the only thing I can think.
You got to think that that's what it is, man.
But even then,
every single person did that.
But even then, that only gives me a small iota of happiness over it, because if you want to protest, go out there and win the damn game.
Yeah.
Go win the damn game and prove the naysayers wrong. You standing on the sidelines, and I love our Seminoles, dude. We garnet and gold all day, baby. But I'm going to tell you right now, standing on the sidelines and opting out of everything, not the way to go. Not the way to go.
I didn't like that. I would like to have seen us gone out with a bang, and I hated it, but at the same time, because of the situation, if we were 12-1, that's one thing. We were 13-0. We got fucked. I understand their thinking when it comes to entering the draft and not playing for this game. I get it, go out with a bang, but at the same time, they want a ring, man. They wanted that ring on their finger. They did not want a few oranges thrown at them at the end of their game.
Right.
They wanted a ring on their finger. They didn't care about a win against Georgia. They didn't care about any of that. Some of those guys have been there for 3 or 4 years just for this opportunity. We were kind of a team coming up 2 years ago in Norvell. Then last year we had a few close losses, could have been in the playoffs. Then this year, 120,000% should have been in. Still didn't get in because of our quarterback getting hurt at the end of the year. We still win with a third-string quarterback in the fucking ACC championship. Not enough to overwhelm the committee's decision and keep us in our fourth place ranking that we were most of the year. So all of a sudden we win, and then 2 teams jump us. It will never make sense to me ever.
At the end of the day,
as a fan, it will never ever make sense to me.
At the end of the day, I was pissed off about it, but you know what? Michigan made me really happy in the playoffs because now there is no SEC in the damn playoffs.
Yeah,
it's
that's
done.
the only good thing.
No hatred towards Georgia or anything. Alabama ruins Alabama makes the SEC like what everyone thinks about the SEC. I feel like Alabama puts this look on the entire SEC.
I didn't mind Georgia having that run. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved Washington. A different team doing something instead of the same team.
Couple predictions. I want to hear what your take is before we finish up. Only because I saw a couple articles about it. Jordan Travis, draft stock. Where's he at?
It really depends on the severity of his injury. I think the injury that he had was it was pretty severe, and they said the recovery process is going to be long. But you got to think of some of these guys that in the last few years have come out of the draft, hurt their first year and still done really well.
We've seen much worse injuries come back with all-stars.
I just think, he's so talented in every way, and he stayed, like I said, that last year in order for him to win a championship and build, all that chemistry with all those juniors and seniors. I think that, the scouts should look at that, and especially his last year as a college athlete. He had 20 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions in the games that he played. And I think he had 10 games played. 9 total, I guess, if you don't count the beginning of that North Alabama game. But still very impressive. And, he was a leader all year, outside and on the field. And I think that would go well with his professional standpoint. So, obviously the injury is going to put his draft stock down, but, he'll probably at least go in the 3rd or 4th round. I think just because, the coaches and the team organization's got to think about what he's going to be like when the injury's gone. Once he recovers, and he's going to have that mindset. He wants to get back on the field as quick as possible. He's going to make that necessary preparations for himself.
And there's teams out there that need a good quarterback, but don't necessarily have the dire need to have one day one.
Right.
And to me, this is a perfect opportunity for, like a Rodgers Favre scenario, where he can come in and have time to heal and learn behind a good quarterback. Maybe not an elite quarterback, because right now I don't see a ton of elite in the league, especially any that's going to be leaving anytime soon. But you find a team like Kansas City that's willing to put some stock in him, look at 3rd or 4th round, set him behind Mahomes. They have some similarities in their game style. And, in 3 years or 4 years, if Mahomes starts going downhill or announces that he's getting towards where he wants to end his career or anything, you have a guy who's ready to rock at that point. Mm-hmm. Just a thought. I agree. I think he's a 4th round or 3rd round talent. I think that I could see him going 5th or 6th because of the injury.
Just look at this past year, man. Like, even if he's a 2nd or 3rd stringer on a team, all these guys had these opportunities this year because of injury. So You never know what's going to happen.
Real quick, Michigan, Washington, call it.
Well, like I said earlier, I'm going to call Michigan and Harbaugh getting it done. But I do really enjoy watching Washington, and they're going to put up a fight. I'll say 31-28 Michigan.
31-28 Michigan, eh?
Yeah, I think Penix will go out with a bang, but Michigan will finish it off, and they'll get their title they've been looking for quite some time.
I have a really hard time with it because both teams have shown that they can play on both sides of the ball. I think Michigan's defense comes through. I think that Washington, they're high-flying, they're powerful. I think Michigan does the things that they need to really pressure Washington. I've got Michigan coming out. I'm going to call it 28-17 Michigan. I think Michigan does a good job of holding Washington. But at the same time, I know it's one of those games that, golly, Washington get pumped up for that one. They could come out high-flying and they could put up 21 points so fast it's not even funny. So
they've come out strong every single game this year. So
yeah. So here's the thing. Let's do this snack review. Let's finish this thing up. We're running a little bit out of time over here. So let's see right here. I've been sitting here munching on these things the whole damn podcast. So get a few of them out here.
Get a few more to get the second taste in.
And we're going to do some more of these different brands later on. just to see who truly, because these are like the new hot thing, man. Freeze-dried candies, they're like the new hot thing. So I'm like, we'll see, later on a few podcasts who's making the best of each one. But these right here.
I actually saw at this craft show there was people making like the homemade bags of the freeze-dried candy similar to that. The idea is definitely blooming. Yeah. Like the Skittles, they have that chewy center. But this, like, you taste the flavor better because it's kind of like a puffy and it's just like a flavor ball. As far as rating,
I think I gave the Lemon Heads, I think I gave them an 8.5.
as far as the ratings go, I'd probably give a regular Skittle about a 7. I'll give this a 7.5. Just a little bit above. But, not a huge candy person, but when I do eat candy, I like it to be good,
When I'm looking around right now trying to find some other snacks that aren't candy, because I feel like everything we've done on this show has been all sweets up to
Sweets.
now.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't mind it. I mean,
Get some healthy
I'm a
options.
fat guy. I love sweets, so whatever.
The healthy options going.
So here's the thing, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't do, but I'm going to do it. So I'm going back on my rating on the Lemon Heads. Robert said it during, he was like, you don't want to set the bar too high, and I think I did. I'm taking his advice. Yeah, I gave those an 8.5.
Yeah, that's a tough number.
To be honest with you, the more I'm looking at them, I'm thinking the Lemon Heads are a solid 7.5, 8, somewhere in there. These, I think, get the solid 8, 100% 8.
Okay. I was leaning
They're damn
towards that.
good. Damn good. And that's this brand of them. This is Anderson's Crazy Candy. We're going to try some others. There may be some 9s. You never know. There may be some that are just, they pack something else that these don't have, or you never know. But we've gotten lucky with some snacks. We've had some really good ones on here since we started this thing.
Yeah.
But, I felt bad. Rachel, when they went to Buffalo for Christmas, she brought me back some white truffle potato chips. And I thought she brought them just for me to munch on.
Man.
Man, I cracked that damn bag open and was going to town on them. She was like, those are for SportsBites, and was like, oh, shit, damn it. They would have been perfect, too.
Ruined.
So, well, Donnie, I think that's going to just about do it for us today. I know we're a little over, but, it's all right. We're rocking through it. First of the year, too. Whatever. You go over a little bit. It is what it is.
Last week we didn't have one, so we had 2 weeks of preparation.
Like I said in the episode with Robert, for anybody that's seen it, we hit that 50 subscribers. We're definitely bag of freeze dried is coming their way, and that's just part of the swag. We've got a lot of things in the works, but we got to get those 50 subscribers, man. Like and subscribe. Share this podcast with all your people. Get in on that first giveaway. The first giveaway might be the smallest one, but it's going to be the one that you're going to get the best chances of. And I promised everybody this, all of our subscribers, all of our fans, the more subscribers we get, the more giveaways we do, the bigger the giveaways we'll get. I've got a big one planned for when we hit a certain magical number.
Yeah.
I told some other guys, and I can't remember if I put it out publicly. I think it was like 1,350 was the number. There was another SportsBite podcast that I don't think is active anymore, but that was how many subscribers they had. If we can break that number, we become the official #1 SportsBites podcast. If we hit that number, I have a massive giveaway that's going to be coming. And the faster we get to it, the more stuff we're giving out, man. So
it's really word of mouth. Friends, family, get it out to your friends and family. Let them watch. Let them just see our viewpoint on everything. Give us, feedback. Give us comments.
Comments.
We love that kind of stuff. If anything, you guys want to see any snacks on here, you guys want to see anything different, more guests, anything like that, let us know. Give us feedback, and we love it. We appreciate it.
I promise you this. If you comment on our video and you comment a snack you want to see, I can guarantee you're getting a shout-out and you're getting your snack on the show.
Yeah, because nobody's done that
Comment
yet.
on these things, people. We want to get these subscribes in. We want to get this thing going. We want to make 2024 an awesome year. We want to make 2024 be the year that we become the official #1 SportsBites podcast. Help us make it happen, people. We want to do this. Let's get it rocking and rolling. Well, with that, Donnie, I want to say thank you again for being on the show. First one of 2024 feels great. Feels different. Feels different.
We're live.
I know we've got a lot of excitement in sports coming up. People don't think we're just harping on football and baseball right now. I know we've had a lot of it, but we've got other sports coming. It's just this is that time of the year.
Get them to do basketball next week.
We got basketball coming. We got a little bit of hockey. We got some stuff coming up here and there, you know. But again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Again, I can't say it enough. Like, subscribe, comment, do it all the buttons on there. Hit them all. And with that, we are SportsBites.
SportsBites, baby.
We are the self-proclaimed #1 sports podcast, bringing you the best of both worlds, sports and snacks. Don Schroed, thank you so much for being here, brother.
You're welcome.
Everyone watching, thank you so much. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Long as I wake up in the morning, I'ma get a bag. Get a bag, yeah, I'ma get a bag. Long as I wake up in the morning, I'ma get a bag. Get a bag, yeah, I'ma get a bag.